We're going to go ahead and call to order the June 19th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. Our first item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Will Vice Chair Harris lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Next item, roll call. Staff, roll call, please.
All commissioners are present this evening.
Great, thank you very much. Our next item is public comments. This is generally the time that we take items that are not on the agenda but are within the purview of the Planning Commission. So if you would wish to speak, please come forward and have a chance to speak for 3 minutes or less. State your name, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Benny Halleck. I am the volunteer chair of Save Newport Beach Golf Course. Dear committee.
Can I stop you right there? Are you planning on speaking at the end when we have the study session?
No, just public comments.
Okay, that's on the agenda this evening. So this is for items that are not on the agenda, and maybe I wasn't clear.
This isn't on the agenda, but I can do it later. That's fine. I understand.
Okay, if it's not on the agenda, then I understand.
Later.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, then, I guess seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. This is a request for continuances. Staff?
There are no items requested for continuance.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to consent items. Item number 1 is the minutes of the March 6th, 2025 Planning Commission. And would anyone from the audience like to comment on the minutes from that meeting? All right, seeing none, I do believe that we had some comments from Mr. Mosier that were sent in via email.
That's correct.
Okay. Would any of the commissioners care to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to adopt with Mr. Moser's edits.
Second.
All right. Motion is second. Call for a vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, moving on to our public hearing items. Item number 2 is the Uptown Newport Development Agreement. This is the third amendment. It's PA 2025-0010. Site location is 4321 Jamboree Road. Staff, do you have a presentation for us this evening?
Yes, Chair Rosine. My name is Jaime Murillo, Deputy Director of Community Development. We do have a detailed presentation if needed, but this item's rather straightforward. It's a request to amend the development agreement between the city and the developers of the Uptown Newport Plan community. The amendment is the requested amendment is to allow for an extension of the allowable operation of the Tower Jazz industrial facility. The development agreement originally anticipated that the facility would cease operating in 2027, and at that point, after it's been decommissioned, phase 2 of the overall redevelopment of the Uptown Newport Plan community would take place. However, due to delays with phase 1 and additional time needed for Tower Jazz to find a new facility, they've requested a short extension from 3.5 years to 2030. And so as part of this amendment, no other changes to the development agreement are requested. No changes to the plan community zoning document. Plan community text are needed. And staff is just recommending that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution recommending approval to the City Council. I'm available for more questions, and the applicant, Bill Shophoff, is available as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Jaime. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none. Commissioners, any ex parte communications? Starting my left with Commissioner Reed. None?
None. None. None.
None.
All right, then we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation?
I'm Bill Shopoff. I'm the applicant, and I'm here for questions. I'm going to defer a presentation unless somebody has any questions. I know you guys have a full
Sounds good,
meeting.
thank you. Commissioners, any questions of the applicant? All right, does anyone from the audience wish to comment on this item? Mr. Mosier.
Chair Rosine, members of the Planning Commission, my name is Jim Mosier. As I understand the resolution, it's actually just a recommendation to the City Council on what they should do with the development agreement. If I'm understanding it correctly, the request is for Phase 2 to begin after actually the end of the original development agreement. And while the development agreement could be extended into that period, I'm not clear that it has to be extended. And as I understand it, the entitlements probably are with the property, independent of whether the development agreement is there or not. The development agreement just held the entitlements for 15 years and guaranteed they would not go away during that time. But now Phase 2 is starting after the end of the agreement. It presumably will be extended, but again, I'm not sure it has to be. So I think a question that would be good for the council to understand: is there any scenario in which the applicant should simply let the development agreement lapse and go ahead with the development without providing those benefits that have been paid to reserve the entitlements? Seems a reasonable question to ask.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mosier. Are there any other speakers who would like to speak on this item? Please come forward.
Thank you and good evening. My name is John Lee. I'm a resident at Uptown Newport, and I wanted to voice two objections. Number one is the noise generated by the power plant at the semiconductor facility. So it's a significant noise, at minimum a nuisance, but pretty much everybody that comes to visit wants to know what that loud humming noise is. And part of the reason we bought there is with the understanding that plant was going to go away and it's going to be a residential area, because I certainly don't want to live next to a power plant and a semiconductor plant, and I don't think that's going to support the property values. And part of the reason, like I said, is we bought it as a residential development, so my objection would be based on the noise and having the plant there for another 3.5 years actually sounds like it's going to be not that good for property values. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is David Edelman. I'm also a resident of Uptown Newport. In addition to agreeing with the points that Dr. Lee made, I wanted to emphasize maybe a different aspect of this, and that is in reviewing the original development agreement, which I did prior to purchasing, several of the benefits that are the obligation of the developer to provide in compensation for this development are now mitigated or at least deferred as a result of this proposal. Specifically, things like reduction in gas, electric, water, and sewer utility usage by the light industrial occupants tower that would be reduced as a result of this mixed residential use. So, and there's several others in the recitals of the agreement. And since those benefits are now being deferred, what is the quid pro quo that is reasonable from the city's point of view, given the lack of benefits, or at least the delay in benefits now being contemplated? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Okay, seeing none. give the applicant an opportunity to respond if they'd like.
I'll address a couple of things. One is the request is for 3.5 years. Our intention or our belief is that, well, 6 months of that at least is for shutdown, so the plant would maximally operate an additional 3 years. We think that's more likely to be 2, and we're continuing to work on that with the actual operator. They produce some key products at this facility, and although we would love to move on to phase 2 of our development, we're also sensitive to the products they're producing there and the jobs they employ. So we're hopeful that we'll get the support tonight. There was an environmental assessment of this that the city engaged, and it looked at that, and it felt like the extension would offset those issues that they've raised, that there were no adverse environmental impacts from this extension.
Okay, thank you. Staff, do you have any comments for the record?
Just to clarify the point in response to Mr. Moser's statement about allowing the DA to lapse, the DA does provide vested development rights to the developer, but in exchange it does provide public benefits to the city, so it's important to keep the development agreement in place and effective. But again, the request is not to change any other terms of the development agreement, solely the ability for Jazz to extend operation for the additional 3.5 years.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring this back to the commission for discussion. Commissioners, any comments?
Actually, more of a question than a comment. So I'm a little confused. So if we're extending the term of the lease, but the development agreement expires during that term, what happens to the entitlements after the end of the development agreement? Are the entitlements still secure, or do we still get the public benefit? Do they still get to do what they want to do with the property once the operator leaves?
No, so the initial term of the development agreement is for 15 years. And there's 2 5-year extensions that are built into the development agreement. So if the city did not extend or 5-year extension, then yeah, all vested rights would.
So do the extensions go beyond the 3.5 years that's being asked for?
Yes.
Okay.
It was 2013. Hold on, can we bring up the applicant to respond to that?
Yeah, we can extend out to 2038, and we have full intention of doing that. I think we've already met the majority of the criteria for an extension. So it's our intention, because our risk if we were not to do that is we have zoning, but we don't have our actual entitlements actually tied to the development agreement. So they vest with that development agreement, and we're obviously not willing to go back to square one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it. Then, commissioners, any other comments?
None.
All right, then hearing none, does anyone have a motion?
I'll motion to approve. Do I need to
Or recommend to approve?
recommend approved?
For the city council? And second?
I'm open to seconding this item.
All right, thank you. Then we'll go ahead and call for a vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
All right, congratulations to the applicant. Item number 3. This is the Verizon Faux Tree Telecom Facility. This is PA 2025-0024. The site location is 1024 Irvine Avenue, and this is behind the shopping center adjacent to Rutland Road. Staff, do you have a presentation for us this evening?
Yes, good evening, commissioners and members of the public. My name is Daniel Kopshever, assistant planner. This project is the Verizon Faux Tree Telecom Facility, conditional use permit, located in the West Cliff Plaza Shopping Center at 1024 Irvine Avenue. The site is zoned commercial neighborhood, which allows for a freestanding wireless telecom facility. Freestanding wireless telecom facility is a Class 4 facility. It's the least preferred facility. Adjacent to the site, there is apartments and condominiums along Rutland Road, and also adjacent to the site, north of the site, condominiums. And then from the project location, there are 1,000 feet between the location and Mariners Elementary School. The telecom facility is specifically sited within the Westcliff Plaza Shopping Center in the rear service, the back of house area. There's also a proposed support equipment enclosure about 50 feet from the telecom facility location. These are the project components. I'll highlight these from the site plan. We have the 60-foot tall wireless telecom facility disguised as a faux eucalyptus tree. Adjacent, there is an existing trash enclosure which will be reconfigured and slightly enlarged. This is the equipment enclosure. It's about 300 square feet with 8-foot masonry block walls enclosing it. There is new sidewalk proposed for technician access to the equipment enclosure, and new and rehabilitated landscaping throughout to maintain screening of the back of house service area and the enclosures. From the plan elevations, you can see the 60-foot tall mono eucalyptus. 52 feet above grade, the antennas are mounted. This is the minimum height necessary to provide coverage and for safety reasons for emissions to the ground level and to adjacent buildings. The project requires a conditional use permit as it is a Class 4 wireless telecom facility. As part of the conditional use permit request, the applicant is requesting a height increase. The height increase triggers these additional wireless telecom findings. Here's a view of the proposed project from Rutland Road, north of the proposed facility location, and a rendering of the faux tree. The view from Rutland Road south of the proposed location with a rendering of the faux tree, and here you can also see a rendering of the hedges and electrical meter. To the right of the rendering, there is a mature eucalyptus tree with comparable height to the faux tree. There's a rendering from the back of house service area showing the faux tree. For scale and compatibility, there are ficus trees immediately adjacent to the proposed telecom facility, which are about 28 feet tall, and according to the city arborist, those are projected to grow to about 40 feet tall. And there are other more mature ficus trees along Rutland Road and a 40-foot tall eucalyptus tree, additional eucalyptus trees on the corner of Rutland Road and Westcliff Drive. For nearby building heights, to the east of the project, this is single-family residential with a maximum allowed building height of 24 feet for a flat roof and 29 feet for a sloped roof. Adjacent to the site, to the east, 33 feet existing building heights. These are with sloped roofs, this is the existing multifamily residential developments. And then just adjacent to the site to the east is the Westcliff Plaza shopping center buildings, two of which, Ralph's and CVS, are 32 feet tall. Just to the west of the site, there's a range of existing building heights for commercial that range from 48 feet tall to 92 feet tall. And then to the south and west of the project, 35 feet existing building heights, high-density residential. This provides a somewhat gradual transition in height from east to west, reducing an abrupt change in scale as a result of the height increase. This map shows the existing coverage in the area. This is the Fashion Island Verizon site at 2001 Westcliff Drive, which is expected to be decommissioned within 2 years. This is the area with that site decommissioned and if the project were not to be approved. And this is the area with the Westcliff site before us today if it were to be approved and without the Fashion Island coverage. We did receive public comments on this item regarding health and safety, so we submitted additional materials that the applicant provided as part of their application, the radio frequency exposure assessment report, which showed that they're within the the emission safety limits of the FCC at the ground level and adjacent buildings. So therefore, there would be no concern to the Mariners School, which is 1,000 feet away. It is important to note that the Telecommunications Act of 1996 prevents cities from regulating the placement of wireless communication facilities on the basis of environmental health effects of RF emissions. Staff believes that the findings have been made, that the project is consistent with the zoning code and the general plan. It's visually compatible with the surroundings. There's no impact to circulation or to public or emergency services. Alternative sites have been deemed infeasible or did not provide service. Higher preference classes were also infeasible or did not provide coverage. And the height increase is necessary to provide service, and there's no abrupt change in scale. Since we did receive comments also asking about alternative locations, aesthetics, and some comments in support showing the lack of cell coverage in the area, we do have the applicant present, and he's been invited to make a brief presentation about their site selection process. So we recommend conducting the public hearing and finding the project exempt from CEQA and adopting a resolution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Commissioners, any questions of staff before we have questions of the applicant here? Please.
Just confirming the memo, we can't take perceived health effects into consideration, and neither can staff, right?
That is correct.
Okay. You mentioned the surrounding trees in the vicinity that have potential for more growth. Was there any timing on that? And if they did, reach a conflicting height or the similar height, would they have to be trimmed back? Do they interfere with service?
So I didn't get it projected. I didn't get a projected amount of time from the city arborist on when they would grow to 40 feet, but that's a reasonable expectation per his assessment. And we would not need to trim them back according to the applicant.
Thank you.
Commissioners? Actually, I have a question here. Did I understand that the height of this is why we're here for the CUP?
Conditional use permit would be required for the Class 4 facility regardless. Just as part of the application, they're also requesting additional height.
Got it. So that's not the only reason. Okay, and then was there a naming convention issue here? I heard Fashion Island, and yet it's showing it in Westcliff. Is that just, can you clarify that?
Just, I'm not sure about the history of the naming of that site.
So it is in Westcliff, but it's called
It is,
Fashion
yeah.
Island. Okay. Got
I'm
it.
sorry, I'll just ask the applicant to hold his comments until he's called up.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but it's helpful. All right, well then, I guess what we'll do is, any other questions of staff? Commissioners? Okay, then we'll go ahead and ask commissioners to report any ex parte communications. Commissioner Reed?
None.
None for me?
None.
I spoke with a representative of the property owner.
None for me.
None. None.
All right, thank you. Then we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. And does the applicant wish to make a presentation?
Good evening. I'm Eric Mears, representing Verizon Wireless with Plancom. First and foremost, the Fashion Island name. Back in the 90s when, before Google Earth and all that stuff was around, the RF engineers would use USGS maps to kind of lay things out, and they would usually pick the biggest name nearest to the site that they were proposing, and that's kind of how they named it. So it happened to be that Fashion Island was the biggest name on the USGS map that was nearest to this, so it got the name Fashion Island. And I can tell you, the first time I ever worked on it, I was confused too, because I'm like, hey, this isn't Fashion Island. But yes, it is definitely there in Westcliff. So that kind of gives a little history to the name of that site, but yes. Danny asked me to just address some comments I think Mr. Mosher had raised in his letter regarding our alternative site analysis and kind of what we looked at, how we ended up where we are today. So I just kind of wanted to walk through a few things. And Danny, do you have that map that I provided? Sorry. There we go. I'm not sure if you can see all the little red pins on there are areas that we looked at prior to landing here. So first and foremost, the existing site, that the 1501 West Cliff Drive building, that's what's driving this site initially. We have a lease that's expiring there. We've had a little stay of execution there for a short period of time to kind of keep that site operational. But if that site goes away, the West Cliff area will actually have no coverage from Verizon Wireless. That is our primary coverage for this area. So we definitely need something. Even as that site exists, the coverage in that area is limited just because it's all coming from that one cell site, where our competitors have multiple sites in the area. AT&T and T-Mobile are there along West Cliff Drive and 17th Street atop the Newport Tower, as well as the building there near 2001 West Cliff Drive. They're also down at the church on Dover. So they have kind of two sites covering the area where we're doing it with one right now. In addition, we approached the 2001 West Cliff Drive building property owner. Initially, there was some interest, but after a period of time, he determined that he did not wish to place another cell site on the rooftop of that building. The adjacent building is where the AT&T site is located. It is shadowed by that 2001 West Cliff Drive building, so it is not a feasible location as it doesn't see the area properly. So that was ruled out. The next one we looked at was the 485 17th Street. That is the Newport Tower thing that's in the city of Costa Mesa, but again, we're in that area. T-Mobile is currently atop that building. The building was purchased a number of years ago, and the new owners do not desire to place any additional facilities on that rooftop, and had expressed to us that they were not going to renew that current lease when it expired. So that was ruled out. We also looked at the Newport Mesa Plaza there, which is catty corner right there on the corner of Irvine Avenue and West Cliff Drive, or 17th right there. And there's a cupola atop that building. We were looking to place something. Yeah, thank you, Danny. We were looking to place something there, but unfortunately, we could get some antenna space, but there was no ground equipment space available because the parking limitations that they have and the amount of traffic that they have in the center, they were not able to give up any parking spaces, so that was ruled out. Let's see. We also evaluated, several other buildings there along the 17th Street West Cliff corridor. Most of them or all of them are too low for what we need, or they don't have sufficient ground space available to place a freestanding structure. And I just want to make note that every possible parcel that we looked at in that area is either adjacent to residential or across the street from residential in one way or other. So no matter what we look at in this area, we're impacting residential at one way or another. So that's kind of the overall analysis of what we looked at. We finally ended up there at the West Cliff Plaza with the Irvine Company. They were a willing landlord and are just our lessor. They have no other interest in the project other than being our lessor and being willing to lease the space there at back of house of their property. So I want to thank Danny for all the hard work that he did in preparing his staff report and working with us on this project, and I'm available for any questions additionally that you might have for me. Thank you.
Thank you. You might want to hold on just a second. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Langford?
Thank you, Chair. I was just curious, is this a new generation of technology? Is it going to provide better coverage than what already exists, or is it just a replacement of existing Fashion Island tower?
It is a replacement of the existing, but it is the current generation of all of our new technologies. So it will have our new C-band frequencies as well as the existing stuff that you currently use, the AWS, PCS, that type of thing. So yes.
Commissioners, any other questions? Vice Chair Harris?
I saw near the Chase Building or along Irvine Avenue.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to address those two. So the Chase Building, yeah, that was in Mr. Mosier's letter. I apologize, I got ahead of myself. So we looked at that area as well, adjacent to the Bank of America and the Chase Building. That's actually in the 20-foot or 25-foot setback requirement of the shopping center there. And there was no feasible place to place a tower there in that area and our equipment. So yeah, that was ruled out. So the area around the back was our really best option.
Okay, I have a quick question for you. So it sounds like aesthetics was driving a lot about where this location was, in addition to the lack of other options.
Sure.
If aesthetics weren't the biggest issue, would any of the rooftops on any of the Irvine Company properties be better? And then there's a way to do something with it?
Unfortunately, the height of those buildings is 30 feet, so we would literally have to do a 30-foot extension on those, and there's just no feasible way to make that happen. We did actually explore that initially. I was trying to see if we could do CVS or something on one of the rooftops there, but there was just no physical way to make that happen at the height that we require to provide coverage in the area.
That makes sense. Okay. Commissioners? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone from the audience wish to speak on this item?
Do you have a time limit by chance?
3 minutes.
Okay. I'm a resident. I'm within about 500 feet of the proposed tower. I unfortunately do know, and I know we can't.
Sorry, would you state your name?
Oh, Allison Burchett. Resident and homeowner, worked my whole life to buy a beautiful house on Cabrillo Street. My 2 kids live with me. They also attend Mariners School. I know we're not going to decide on health effects, but it's important context. I am aware of the health effects due to I experienced hearing loss after usage of my cell phone immediately after doctors have diagnosed it as EMF sensitivity. The reason that the applicant needs the height is because there is RF exposure at a certain height level. Therefore, it has to be 60 feet because there is an exposure element. And I know we're not allowed to talk about it, but it exists. My kids go to Mariners School. They're there all day. They come home. They live at our house. They have no way to escape this exposure that they have no control about. And it has been listed as a class 1B carcinogen. So it is a real, it's a real issue. On the basis of what you can control, which is limited, I understand, visual blight is quite obvious. So that cell tower is behind my shopping center, it's behind my CVS. Those eucalyptus trees have been there for years. Those things ain't growing to 60 feet. They are 28 feet. They'll be 28 feet for the foreseeable future. Is anybody going to go back and check and see how fast they grew? No. That is a massive structure. There are so many residents impacted in this area. It's a very high concentration of condominiums and apartments, as well as 880, as well as our East Side neighborhood. There are alternative sites. I don't know if the applicant has explored the Sprouts area, but that would be within the coverage zone. I'm not an expert. I'm not from Verizon, but that limited zone of trial of sites is too narrow in scope, and I do realize that is in Costa Mesa, but at this point, all alternatives within a given service area should be explored so as not to be within the sensitive use area of my children's elementary school. I appreciate your guys' consideration. I hope I've provided you a sufficient reasoning for denying this and not moving forward, or at least encouraging the applicant to pursue alternative sites, maybe potentially outside your jurisdiction. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Chair Rosine, members of the Planning Commission, my name is Jim Mosier. appreciate the applicant explaining his search for alternative sites. The reason for my comment is that when something less intrusive than a new pole is being proposed, these matters usually go to the zoning administrator, and I've never seen a report there that did not have in advance, as part of the applicant's presentation, a detailed analysis of sites that had been considered and why they would not work. So I was surprised not to see that here. And I'm still hearing the words that the lease is expiring. I don't know if that means that the lease cannot be renewed on the building that it currently is on, or they're being kicked out of that location. In addition to the sites that the applicant mentioned, that the tallest structures I'm aware of in the area are actually the light poles around the stadium at Newport Harbor High School. I don't know if they approached them as to the possibility of putting their antennas up on those lights. They're far up in the air. As to the aesthetics, one of the conditions of approval, number 7, is that the trunk of the fake tree will be painted to blend in with the existing trees. I can tell you, number 1, that although perhaps some of the trees nearby are also called eucalyptus, they're actually a different genus than this one. They're lemon-scented gums is the more proper term for them. And this is supposed to resemble, I think, a different kind of eucalyptus tree than that. So it will not look like that, and the trunk will never resemble any tree because it's just a big steel cylinder, and painting it brown is not going to make it look like a tree. And we're told that it's not going to be flat-topped because of the height. It actually looks flat-topped in the presentation. And what it most resembles is kind of a toilet cleaning brush standing up on end, and I don't think it'll ever look like anything different than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Sorry. Next speaker, please. Okay. Seeing none, staff, do you have any comments for the record?
With regards to the aesthetics, so condition number 1 does require that the construction be in substantial conformance with not only the site plan and floor plans, but also the photographic simulation. So that's kind of what we're going off of to make sure it's painted to be consistent with the photo sims. For condition number 7, it does specifically state surrounding eucalyptus trees. We can strike out eucalyptus and just state trees. Eventually, staff will go out and do a before a final inspection just to make sure it's consistent with the photo sims.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to make any comments? I actually have a question for you about it, if you wouldn't mind coming forward.
No problem.
So I know that you responded to Commissioner Langford's question about, is this the newest technology? Is there anything that's out there that's better? I mean, this seems...
As far as the type of tower? Or?
Better materials, better
I
technology.
can tell you that the tower that we use, Irvine Company is our landlord here, and they are very, very particular on what we do. And we have quite a few of these same eucalyptus towers on several of their properties in Irvine, if you'd like to check them out. But they are the nicest of the stuff that we have available. SCI is the manufacturer. The bark is actually, it's not paint, just for your purposes. It's actually a real kind of textured thing that has little layers in it and stuff. If you see it, it kind of looks more, we even put a swirl on it that goes the right direction of a natural eucalyptus tree. The leaves themselves are colored, so they actually aren't just one color of green. There's some yellow and there's some lighter and darker greens and blacks that are put on the leaves to make it look more real. I mean, I understand it's fake, but it actually looks pretty nice, compared to other things that are out there.
Well, this is the best that you got.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any other comments for the applicant?
Just a quick question. In the package here, there's a picture of the one on Irvine Avenue by the church. Is that a Verizon one?
That is, yes.
It is, and that's not sufficient to cover the area?
No, it's way too far north, and it covers the northern part of that, but yeah, it doesn't even get down in this neighborhood at all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring this back to the commission for discussion. Commissioners, any comments? Okay, seeing none, I mean, oh, go ahead, Commissioner Harris.
These ones are difficult. They're tough right next to you, but everyone likes their phone and wants it to work, and they're kind of everywhere. Based due to our restrictions on what we can get into, and it's way above my expertise level here, probably anyone's here. But I think they've hit what they need to. The 5 foot is pretty minimal. They're doing everything they can, and I don't see any alternatives that make sense. So I'd make a motion to approve.
Okay, we do have a motion.
I think our hands are tied on this, even if we really wanted to in terms of the health benefits and everything else. It looks like the site selection was proper in terms of the determination. For those reasons, I would call for a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I'd like to go ahead and say that I am sympathetic to everybody that lives in this area because, frankly, not only do I think it's ugly, it makes me concerned for health benefits, but I cannot vote on that. So I'm going to stick with ugly, and we can go ahead and vote.
The motion carries 6-1 with Chair Rosine voting no.
Congratulations to the applicant. All right, our next item is item number 4. This is 6805 Seashore LLC Residence. This is PA 2024-0123. The site location is 6805 Seashore Drive. Staff, do you have a presentation?
Thank you, Chair Rosine. We do. Oscar Orozco here with the Planning Division, presenting the 6805 Seashore LLC residence. The project application is a request for a coastal development permit, specifically to demolish an existing single-unit dwelling and construct a new single-unit dwelling. In addition to the coastal development permit, there is a request for a variance, specifically to exceed the third floor area by 37 square feet, as well as encroach 1 foot 7 inches into the front third floor 15-foot step back, as well as encroach 1 foot 6 inches into the rear third floor 15-foot step back. Notably, the project application does not include a coastal variance because Title 21 of the Municipal Code does not specifically outline these third floor standards. Therefore, a traditional variance is the proper procedure for the request. The project site is 6805 Seashore Drive, as depicted in the aerial image here. It is adjacent to the West Newport Park and sandwiched between Coast Highway and the public beach. The project site is within the R2 zoning district. The project site has a unique lot configuration and a unique lot shape. The lot itself was originally established in 1911 as the Seashore Colony Tract, which is depicted here. Block H, lot number 8, is the project site. However, from that point to now, that lot was split, and that's depicted here in this following APN map, and became 2 specific lots, right? So lot 8 turned into 2. Similarly, the lots adjacent to both the east and the west went through a very similar split. That created quite a unique shape. The traditional lots within this area are typically skinny and long, and these ones ended up being a lot more like a square, right? So this specific project site has a shallow depth of approximately 45 feet, while the traditional or typical lots in the seashore colony tract are more closer to 75 feet in lot depth. This creates a challenging site for our code, which is intended for some of the more traditional and typical lots that are skinnier and longer. So those standards that I referenced are the third floor standards within the municipal code, specifically intended to limit bulk, scale, and mass for new structures. This is achieved through implementing third floor area limitations, as well as third floor step backs and open volume requirements. Specifically, the requirements are 15% is allowed on the third floor, and that's 15% of the buildable area for any lots that are wider than 30 feet. And 20% is allowed on the third floor. Again, that's of the buildable area for a lot that is 30 feet or less in width. In addition, as I mentioned, the third floor step backs are also required for these subject properties, specifically 15 feet from the front setback line, as well as 15 feet from the rear setback line. Notably, that's from setback line and not from property line. In addition, for any lots that are wider than 30 feet, they have an additional 2-foot side step back from the setback line. With that being said, looking at the specific project that's proposed, this is an elevation of that project. We can see the third floor step back outlined here in blue as required from the front. This specific project site does not have a required front setback. It's 0. Therefore, it's taken from the property line. And from the rear, it's taken from the rear setback line, which is 5. Therefore, we end up with a bit of an overlap with the proposal in these orange areas, right? So the project, again, is requesting to encroach approximately 1.5 feet in each direction. And this is intentional, specifically because the intention of our code is to limit limit mass, bulk, and scale. And through this project design, they're centering the third floor area in the center as to not get any closer to the front or the rear, as depicted in this elevation. And notably, the staircases up to the third floor are exempt from that setback, hence why there's an additional roof structure looking towards the rear. In addition to the step back request to encroach, there is also a request to exceed the third floor area by 2.5%. So as previously mentioned, for a lot that's wider than 30 feet, which is the case in this scenario, they are limited to 15% of the buildable area. So per the code, this project site would be limited to 218 square feet on the third floor. However, the project applicant is requesting to propose a overall third floor area of 255 square feet. That is 17.5% of the buildable area. Now, the reason why this is important is because the code, as I previously mentioned, also has specific minimum requirements on open volume, and that would be 15% of the buildable area. And the project applicant has built this into their design, depicted here in blue. And that, again, is intended to limit bulk, scale, and mass, right? So pull some of those walls back and provide these carved out areas. Therefore, by doing so and maxing out the first and second floor while still complying with the minimum open volume, the applicant is forced to put all the remainder floor area on the third floor, and therefore we end up with a limitation on the overall floor area that they can achieve, which is not allowing them to get to the maximum floor area for the site. Therefore, the applicant's requested that 2.5% increase. Therefore, to summarize just kind of those main points, again, the lot's shape and configuration, which is a nearly perfect square, creates a challenge for the project, given that our code is intended to apply for lots that are a lot more skinny and long than a shallow, more perfectly square lot. In addition, the project site cannot get to its maximum floor area due to the restrictions and limitations on providing the minimal open volume. And lastly, the project is intentional and still achieves the intent of the code by sandwiching the third floor area towards the center of the site so as to not be as intrusive from the street below.
Lastly, the project includes, as I mentioned before, a coastal development permit. And as part of that coastal development permit, there are requirements to analyze views and any effects to coastal access. The project depicted here is showing the third floor, or excuse me, it's like the rendering from the view from west, the adjacent park, which is not designated as a coastal view park. However, it doesn't provide any existing views to the coast, and as part of the project proposal, it won't remove any of those views given there aren't none. In addition, the site is not visible from the nearest coastal view road or coastal view point, as well as the site does not currently provide any coastal access, therefore it wouldn't be removing any coastal access. With that being said, staff recommends we conduct a public hearing, find the project exempt from CEQA, and adopt the resolution. This concludes my presentation. I am available for questions, and so is the property owner. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Commissioners, any questions of staff? Okay. Seeing none. Commissioners, any ex parte communication?
None.
None for me?
None.
None. None.
Okay. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation? Okay. Does anyone from the audience wish to comment on this item? Mr. Mosier.
Chair Rosine, members of the Planning Commission, my name is Jim Mosier. I have no position on whether third floors on square lots are desirable or not. But I have a slight quibble about referring to this as being a unique lot. On handwritten page 22, the first requirement for making a finding of a variance is there are special or unique circumstances or conditions at the subject property not generally applicable to the other properties. To me, unique means one of a kind, that there's only one, it is unique. Yet the assessor's parcel map and the display we saw, which is figure 6 on handwritten page 11, shows that there's at least 8 lots that are very similar, just in the small area that's shown here. So I think it would be more correct to say that it's an unusual lot shape, although in this neighborhood it's not all that unusual, so perhaps the more correct thing to say is the special circumstances. It's a shape unanticipated when the code was written about this, and therefore requires special consideration. But it's hard for me to see in any way that it's unique or even very unusual for this neighborhood. But it is probably unanticipated in the code. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? All right, staff, any comments? None?
No, Mr. Mosier is correct. So when the code was drafted, it was really intended for the long, skinny, narrow lots. And this one, it's unusual that it's not consistent with the standard shape of other lots predominant throughout the city. And so that was the basis for the variance.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it to the commission for discussion. Commissioners, any comment? Commissioner Lowry.
Staff did a good job, and I can believe all their findings were good, so I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve PA 2024-0123.
I think the applicant did a really nice job with this unusual and unanticipated lot, and I will second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Call for a vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
All right, congratulations to the applicant. Okay, our next item is a study session. This is item number 5. This is Snug Harbor Surf Park, PA 2024-0069. Site location is 3100 Irvine Avenue. Staff, do you have a presentation for us?
Chair Rosine, before we get to that, I'll be recusing myself on this item as the project is located on property owned in part by my employer. So I'll bid you adieu for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Langford. Okay, staff, I think we're ready for your presentation.
Good evening, and thank you, Commissioners. My name is Jocelyn Perez. I'm a senior planner with the Planning Division, and this item is a study session item. This is not a public hearing. There will be no action taken on this project tonight. What I'm going to be doing with my presentation is providing a brief overview of the proposed project, focusing on the requested entitlements and the status of the environmental review. And then the applicant will be providing a presentation on the operation of the surf park and the other considerations such as aesthetics and function. So to start out the project, the surf park project is proposed at 3100 Irvine Avenue. That is in the northern portion of the city, approximately 1,000 feet south of John Wayne Airport, at the intersection of Irvine and Mesa Drive and adjacent to the Santa Ana Delhi Channel. The project site is the center portion of the Newport Beach Golf Course. The Newport Beach Golf Course is somewhat unique in that it has multiple property owners. The northern portion, which is primarily outside of the city limits, is owned by the county, and the center portion and the southern portion are owned by a private entity. So the surrounding land uses are quite diverse. We have commercial office along Birch. There's also the Jetty Office Park across Irvine Avenue there. In the cream color, there is single unit residential. There's also multi-unit residential in that brown color. And then the back bay is approximately 1/3 of a mile south of the project site. The project site's land use is parks and recreation, and it is zoned Santa Ana Heights specific plan, open space and recreation. The areas that don't have color, so for example, the northern portion of the golf course and then that residential area with the Ranch Shopping Center off to the west, those are outside of the city limits. They're unincorporated and under the jurisdiction of the county. So the existing site condition, as I mentioned, this project is for the center portion of the Newport Beach Golf Course. The northern portion and the southern portion are not a part of this project. The Newport Beach Golf Course, I want to specify, is not a city-owned property. It's not a municipal golf course. It is privately owned and operated. So it features 18 holes throughout those 3 properties. There, on the center portion, there are 3 holes, a driving range, pro shop, restaurant, and bar, and operates pursuant to its original use permit, which was approved back in the 1970s. The proposed project, and then I will visually depict this on my next slide. The proposed project will remove all the existing improvements on that center portion of the golf course and construct 5 acres of surfing lagoons, which will be surrounded by viewing areas, smaller pools, lighting, and landscaping, a 3-story, approximately 50,000 square feet amenity clubhouse building, and that's where a lot of the public-facing items in this project will be, like the surf academy space, fitness facility, restaurant, locker rooms, storage. There is a basement level that is a part of this project, and that is where surfboards will be stored along with lawn equipment, and then the amenities that will continue to serve the remaining portions of the golf course. Because as I mentioned, the northern and southern portions of the golf course are not a part of this project, so they will still provide golf. Also in the project is a 2-story athlete accommodations building. There'll be 20 rooms for overnight stays. There will be a 351 space parking lot that's divided into 2 surface lots, and they'll be covered with solar panels to generate energy for the project. And then there will be various other site improvements, such as freestanding bathrooms, retaining walls to create the basins, and utility upgrades. Like I mentioned, I'm just going to quickly go over the site plan. So we've got the surfing lagoons, we've got wave making equipment and heating equipment up in that northern corner. 2 entrances, one off of Irvine Avenue, one off of Mesa Drive. We've got the clubhouse, the overnight accommodations, retaining walls throughout the site, and then parking areas. So in order to implement the project requires a general plan amendment. As I mentioned, the general plan land use designation is Parks and Rec, so the land use is consistent with the general plan. However, it's located within an area known as anomaly number 58, where there is a development limit of 20,000 square feet. So the project requires a general plan amendment to increase that intensity. The project also requires a conditional use permit. While outdoor commercial recreation is allowed in the Santa Ana Heights specific plan for this site, it's allowed pursuant to a conditional use permit. And then the conditional use permit also serves some other functions on this project. It'll be used to establish the parking rate because our code doesn't have like a 1 per 250 for outdoor commercial recreation. You have to establish it through the use permit process based on a parking study. And then somewhat unique to the Santa Ana Heights specific plan, that part of the code requires a conditional use permit to construct a building taller than 18 feet. Also required is a modification permit. As I mentioned, there's some retaining walls on the site that are going to be used to help create that basin, and our code limits the height of retaining walls to 8 feet, so the project requires a modification permit to allow taller than 8. Also, because the building is larger than 20,000 square feet, a major site development review is required, and the project requires an environmental impact report. And I'm going to go over that a little bit more on my next slide. So all discretionary projects are subject to CEQA. Typically, we see projects that fall into some type of exemption, like the 2 projects you heard this evening before this study session, they were exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. So this project didn't fit into one of those exemptions and required an analysis, an environmental review. So the city contracted with EPD to prepare an environmental impact report. And what an environmental impact report does is it evaluates the potential for impact to the environment. It also identifies if there are mitigation measures to reduce any impacts, and if there's an alternative to the project that still meets the project's objectives, but can reduce or eliminate environmental impacts. And then ultimately, it's a disclosure document. So what an EIR does not do is evaluate whether a project is good or bad. It just evaluates what are the environmental impacts. So the CEQA process, it's multi-step. We kicked off this effort in November of last year with a notice of preparation. We invited the public to come to a meeting and provide topics that they wanted to see covered in the EIR. Those were all cataloged and incorporated into the environmental impact report. Over the next 6 months, the city, along with EPD, prepared the analysis and put together the draft EIR. The draft EIR was released last month for a 45-day public review, and that's where we are right now. We are within the 45-day public review period, and we're accepting comments on the draft EIR. After the review period closes, we will compile every single comment we receive and respond to them in the final EIR, and that final EIR will need to come back to the Planning Commission and then ultimately the City Council for certification. So I won't read every single topic that the EIR evaluated, but it did cover quite many different environmental topics. I'd like to highlight that the project was less than significant on the majority of the environmental topics, with the exception of those 4 on the right there. However, with mitigation, those potential impacts have been reduced to less than significant. So there are no significant and unavoidable impacts as part of this project. So as I mentioned, we are in the public review period. So the public is welcome to review this draft document. It's posted on the city website. It's also available. There's a hard copy in each branch of the library as well as in the community development department. And the public's welcome to submit comments addressed to me. They can be dropped off in writing or they can be emailed to me. My contact information is up on the screen. They just need to be submitted by July 7th, end of day. and those will all be cataloged and responded to in the final environmental impact report. So as I mentioned, this isn't a public hearing this evening, this is an informational meeting. So there are future public hearings. We have submitted the project to ALUC as there's a general plan amendment, and this is near the airport. It has to go to the Airport Land Use Commission. And then, like I mentioned, we'll be coming back to the Planning Commission later this summer to show you the project where you will take an action. And then ultimately, this will go to City Council. So that concludes my presentation. The applicant does have a presentation. I'm available for questions now, or?
I just quickly want to interject something just to build off what Jocelyn said. Is today is strictly informational. We're not taking any decisions. I'm just giving this disclaimer to remind everyone of your duty to remain impartial and avoid taking a stance on the project at this time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Vice Chair Harris?
I was looking through the plans. Is there a way, I didn't see where, I kind of see there's like the cart path that the existing, would that stay that connection under the road to the north?
There will still be a cart path, and the applicant will be showing the layout for how golf will remain in the future condition as part of their presentation.
Because they also don't show it connecting to the south. And right now, I know obviously people cross the street, but I was kind of wondering, is there going to be another tunnel or something, or any vision there?
I'll let the applicant talk about the operation of the golf course in their presentation.
Okay. I guess, I'll wait till after. I have a couple more, but I'll wait till we hear theirs.
Commissioners? Okay. Would the applicant wish to make a presentation?
Hi, good evening. Real quick, do we have a clicker, or is it's broken? Missing. Wonderful, thank you. Sorry about that. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission, Chair Rosine. I'm Shauna Schaffner, Chief Executive Officer of CAA Planning, and I represent the Snug Harbor Surf Park project. We appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to present this project to the Commission. And so that I don't forget, I would like to congratulate Commissioner Lowry on his very dedicated service to this Commission. Enjoy your Thursdays going forward. Next slide, please. The vision for the project is to provide an innovative, world-class, full-service, year-round, outdoor recreational use to serve a wide range of guests. This project will increase access to surf at all levels, from beginners to experts, and will flatten the learning curve. The project will facilitate continued golf operations and offer new access to the course for local high schools. The project will maintain consistency with the Santa Ana Heights specific plan, which allows outdoor commercial recreation as a permitted use, subject to a conditional use permit. The project will maximize the use of solar energy on site, expand the city's tourism economy and transient occupancy tax opportunity, and importantly, will provide consistency in surf conditions, which is not available in nature. Next slide, please. The surf park features 2 lagoons that accommodate a maximum of 72 surfers with an average capacity of 42 surfers. Surfers can choose their desired sessions based on experience level, wave direction, left or right, wave type, from the gentle waves of Waikiki to the perfect barrels of Bali. A control tower will be located on the 3rd floor of the clubhouse to direct lifeguard operations, with an average of 8 lifeguards positioned around the lagoons and a response time of 25 seconds. The surf park will have an online reservation system based on hourly time slots and will be open to the public for surfing and viewing. The amenities include a surf academy, a surf shop, a coffee shop, restaurant, surfboard and wetsuit storage, other ancillary uses, and 20 athlete accommodations. The project will facilitate, as I said, continued golf operations with the starter inside the building, hitting bays for warm-up, and dedicated golf cart storage in the basement level. The project has a peak parking demand of 289 spaces and includes a valet parking plan with up to 411 spaces for a surplus of 122 parking spaces. Next slide, please. The project's architects, would you pause that, please? You went too far. Thank you. The project architects, MVE Partners, have prepared an animation of the project in order to show you how the facility will fit on the site and to highlight the various components, which I will share with you now. And here we start at the golf course. This is the northern portion, which will remain. We're going to fly over Irvine Ave into the existing parking area. Here you see how the two lagoons will fit on the site. And this is the front entry to the clubhouse, featuring expansive views of the mountains in the distance and a great viewing deck to see the lagoons and the surfing. Here we have a lot of indoor-outdoor space, featuring coffee shop, restaurant areas. Here's the Surf Academy, where you can learn to surf or get a tune-up. Here we have the Bay Arcade, got to keep those kids happy. And here's a view of the clubhouse from one of the lagoons. And here is the peninsula, where you can view both lagoons. At the same time, you see a warming pool. Here's a view of the athlete accommodations. Then we're going to go inside the clubhouse. You see very coastal aesthetic, heavy focus on indoor-outdoor space. Gym activities, some cold plunge. Just incredible views of the lagoons all throughout this building. And then lastly, we're going to end on a night shot. We are proposing night lighting so that surfing can occur in the evening as well. Okay, and then next slide, please. This project will utilize Wavegarden Cove technology. Wavegarden is a cutting-edge engineering company that has created this technology featuring world-class wave-generating systems and surf lagoons. They have 9 existing facilities in operation on 4 continents, with 10 currently under construction and dozens in development. And here's a quick video with a little more detail on how the lagoons function. Next slide, please.
Discover the Wavegarden Bays with their long, perfect waves for beginners and improvers. And soft, open face and whitewater waves up to 50 centimeters high. The conditions are safe and controlled with minimal currents due to precise bathymetrical designs. For surfers, it's easy to learn and improve with a rapid rate of progression.
Next slide, please. So getting back to Newport, I'd like to highlight the specific design for Snug Harbor. The aesthetic is understated to seamlessly blend with and enhance the coastal and cultural environment of Newport Beach. The project will feature wood siding with vertical and horizontal elements, exposed mass timber, natural stone landscape walls to connect with nature, and will include architectural concrete, dark metal, bronze accents, cable railings, and glazing throughout. The design emphasizes a seamless indoor-outdoor flow, allowing visitors to appreciate a connection with the outdoors. Next slide, please. Focusing specifically on the facade, the exterior will be clad in wood, providing an elevated experience. The center of the building is open with wood detail and glazing to create a dramatic sense of arrival. The top floor is slightly set back, and the windows are inset to break up the massing. The building will be a backdrop to the verdant, layered landscaping that will feature heavily in front of the building and throughout the parking lot. Next slide, please. The landscape plan identifies drifts of succulents, agaves, ornamental grasses, shrubs, and ground covers with flowering accents. The lagoon and clubhouse will be surrounded with clusters of palms for vertical drama and iconic silhouettes against the skyline. The landscape palette will be drought tolerant while conjuring the lush, sun-drenched ambiance of the coastal setting. The plan complies with the city's water efficient landscape ordinance and the Santa Ana Heights specific plan. Next slide, please. The grading plan balances the earthwork on site. Every effort has been made to minimize the use of retaining walls and to limit the retaining wall heights of those that are required. MSE, or mechanically stabilized earth walls, will be planted with vigorous climbing vines and vertical evergreen planting in the foreground to create scale and reduce the appearance of the walls. Tiered retaining walls will be utilized along the eastern property line as shown in section C. A combination of tall vertical evergreen trees and palms will be planted to create a layered effect. Evergreen shrubs and climbing vines will provide screening. Next slide, please. The project will facilitate continued golf operations. Here is a plan that shows the remaining 15 holes of golf. Holes 1 through 9 are on the northern portion of the course, with the tunnel remaining the access to those holes. Holes 10 through 15 will be on the southern portion of the course, and access in that area will remain the same where either walkers or cart drivers do daylight at the crosswalk and utilize the crosswalk to cross over to those holes of golf. As I said, the clubhouse has been designed with basement level golf cart storage, and the starter will be inside the building. The project team has met with the Newport Mesa Unified High School District golf coaches to discuss expanded access for high school teams. Next slide, please. Our outreach efforts have been underway for nearly a year and have been exhaustive. The team has had more than 100 meetings, including presentations and one-on-one meetings. The outreach has focused on meetings with Mesa Drive residents, citywide community members, affinity groups, and Newport Beach Realtor meetings. The team has met with, as I said, all Newport Mesa Unified School District high school golf and also surf coaches, the junior guards, nonprofit groups, and surf organizations. We maintain an active website, social media, and email, and the project has been featured in local media sources. Next slide, please. Our next step for the project will include ongoing and continued public outreach for anyone that wants additional information. The city will soon begin preparation of the final EIR, as Jocelyn indicated, and the project will advance to hearings with the Airport Land Use Commission, the Planning Commission, and ultimately the City Council. I thank the Commission for your time tonight. I thank staff for their thorough efforts, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, I think before we go into asking members of the public to come up and speak, that I'm going to reiterate this is not a public hearing. We are not going to vote on anything this evening. And this is an opportunity for the public to make comments, substantive comments that are directed at the design. They could be directed at a variety of things. Making a comment like, I think it's rad, or super epic, or I don't like it, those won't help us this evening, so let's try to keep those to a minimum and just make comments about the project itself, if we could, please. So, since this is we haven't done a study session in a while, we could go ahead and allow the public to come up and speak at this time. So if there's anyone that would like to make a comment, please come forward.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Mike Smith. I just want to point out a couple things here. In that video, it actually forgot to include the noise of the jets taking off. It forgot to include the noise of the jets when they land and reverse landing procedures when the Santa Ana winds are up. It's going to be right over that project as it is now, over the golf course. In your EIR, you're going to find that they have gone and listed prices for golf. The current, to play 18 holes in the existing course, is $32. That's probably the best price you're going to find. On the second page, you're going to find to hit a bucket of balls on the driving range that would be taken out by this is $15. So the community who wants to play golf for a decent price is going to be completely obliterated by this when it comes to, especially the driving range. The applicant has said that they are going to be keeping golf, changing it to 15 holes. I'd like to know what the lease term is for this project with the Back Bay Barrels LLC Group and the Newport Golf Club LLC. I'd like to know the term of how long that will be. I'd also like to know what the agreement is when it comes to sticking with and maintaining golf holes 3 through 8 and 10 through 18. The applicant has not stated how much the surfing sessions cost. I'd like to know the hourly session cost. I'd like to know if this is a membership situation and what those holes or what those fees are. I'd also like to know what the new proposed golf fees would be for golf holes for the 15-hole golf course. As you're probably aware, back in August of 2024, the City Council submitted a letter to the California Coastal Commission and asked them to put a residential overlay over holes, golf holes 3 through 8. And this goes back to the property owner, which is Newport Golf Club LLC, wanting to put in approximately 390 or 693 units on golf holes 3 through 8. There's been a lot of talk. There's also been YouTube videos, from what I understand, with the applicant saying that it's either this project or Costco. I have not been able to find anywhere that there's any written documentation that Costco is going in there. It can't go in there. It's not zoned for it. It's zoned open space. I have one other item, excuse me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
And I apologize, I did forget to mention a 3-minute time limit. So next speaker, please.
Thank you.
Hello, Commission. My name is Benny Halleck. I am a volunteer provider to chair a local opposition to this. The draft EIR is now in circulation at the Snug Harbor Surf Park. And it's deficient and should be recirculated. I know, just like this gentleman just said, that they have said online, different videos, TikTok, all that there was no desire to do any residential building and keep the golf. But in 2001, they did apply for the housing element for that amount of units, and they also submitted site plans. If that isn't their current plan, past plan, whatever, that was never mentioned in the EIR. And as you know, with CEQA, however you guys say that, guidelines 15097, it prohibits breaking up projects that were meant to be in total giant project, breaking it into smaller ones to circumvent EIR, your commission, or anything else. So I do have that listed, so I'd like to present that to you, and thank you for your time.
You could give those to staff. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, well, commissioners, would you like to make any comments? Commissioner Elmore.
I think from a design perspective, it looks beautiful. I like the fact that it takes a lot of the textures and colors that's coastal, maintains it, keeps the consistency throughout the community, or at least what I feel is representative of a design feature that is consistent and relevant through the community, especially coastal. So from a design perspective, and again, this is just a study session with collaborative ideas, I feel Like, I feel like it's on point from my perspective, and it looks relatively sharp.
Commissioner Lowry.
I won't be here to vote on it, but I will just say that I was interested in how they were able to keep both golf and provide the new surf pool and whatnot. So like my colleague here, I think they're going the right direction and really think the aesthetics are very nice.
Commissioners? Okay. I have just a couple of questions or comments. And I apologize, I'm probably going to jump around a little bit, but I thought it was interesting in terms of how we came up with the established grade. I just want to make sure that was, it's fascinating how we come up with our established grade. Since I've done it several times, it's always interesting. Just the grades on the site are going to be very interesting, so just pay attention to the grades, make sure that that's accurate. I do have, and I will get to that actually, I would, especially looking at our elevations, I think interior to the community that the architecture is very nice. The wood and the texture and the metal, I think, is all going to be quite fantastic. I do think that the elevation that's shown on one of our plan sets is probably lacking, and it doesn't really show what you've shown in the video, which I appreciated. You don't get that texture. It feels a little bit, I wasn't going to say prison, but it feels a little bit rough. But I do think that this document probably doesn't do it justice. I still think there's an opportunity there. And if there was a way to get some shadow line. I know it sits way back from the street in this location, and there's going to be multiple layers of landscape. I think there's an opportunity there. So if you could take a look at that, I would appreciate that. So in terms of questions, the one that I don't know that anyone's going to have the answer to is wave garden. And I just don't know what type of wave generation facility this is. There's several. So in the future, if you could bring that up and make that determination so that we know what it is, I think that would be helpful, especially as it relates to a variety of environmental issues that could come up. So that would be helpful for us. And then in the video, it showed a bar, so I'm assuming there's a bar. I was going to question whether or not the existing liquor license was going to be transferred. I guess I'll leave that as a comment for staff. And then I think I'll hold it to that for now. So, Vice Chair Harris?
Yeah, it actually reminded me of a couple. I was actually, the question I had before I held back where the starter is, and I think they answered that it'll be in the main area. Also, the connection to the south, it showed a path of travel. I didn't see it on the rendering. I mean, clearly that's something to work out. I don't know how that works with the wash or anything. I guess I had some questions on the wash, if that changes or any scope of that. The other thing, Chair Rosine brought up some of the scale and some of the sight lines, and I did notice there was on section, I think it's page 5 of the second attachment, the section E and F, it kind of shows like a big fence, and right now you have great sight lines, you kind of see through everything. The idea of a big wall or kind of berm or something, as Mesa drops, it looks like the top of fence only drops by like 2 feet, so it's kind of strange where Mesa drops a lot more from, the road drops more, so I don't know, and then I couldn't get a real idea of how it would look from Irvine Avenue going, across as well, like it's, we don't want some big wall, I wouldn't say prison, but looking thing. Anyway, those are my questions, and interested to see what happens.
Yeah, I guess I should go on the record and say I apologize that that was a rough comment. How about soccer stadium? The only other, and I apologize, I'm just going to go ahead and ramble. Does there, wherever that 8-foot wall is, could that be identified, or I didn't see it, or I probably missed it? So if we could add that in there, that would be helpful. Any other comments, commissioners?
This is good feedback. We appreciate the comments. This gives us an idea of the types of information we need to bring back in clarifying the staff report. I'd also state that in the draft EIR, within the aesthetic section, there are photo sims, which will help give you a better idea of the grade change and perspectives from the different streets.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. We're going to move on to staff and commissioner items then. Item number 6 are motions for reconsideration. Commissioners, any motions for reconsideration? All right, seeing none. Item number 7 is our report from our Community Development Director, or any items that the Planning Commissioner would like to add on future agenda.
Yes, good evening again. Jaime Murillo, Deputy Director. I have a few items to report on. So first one's just on schedule. We do have an item scheduled for July 3rd, Planning Commission. It's a 27-unit townhome project on Ford Road. So we do have an item. And then second update, I did want to update the Planning Commission on the status of the city's lawsuit between Newport Beach Stewardship Association and Still Protecting Our Newport. The trial was held on Tuesday, and the judge did issue her decision yesterday. And this is that case regarding the adoption of the Housing Element Implementation Amendments and Zoning Overlay. The judge did side with the city, so we're pleased to report that, and found that our efforts to comply with state law did preempt Charter Section 423. So big news yesterday. And last, I do want to acknowledge that it is Commissioner Lowry's last meeting today. And so on behalf of community development staff, we did want to present Commissioner Lowry with a certificate of recognition and just kind of express our serious appreciation and gratitude for your service for the past 8 years. You've deliberated on a lot of big projects, including the housing element overlay, a ton of code amendments, and redevelopment projects in the city. And so we do want to thank you. And so I do have the certificate of recognition and a card signed by all our staff. So I'll bring that up for you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lowry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to say 8 years ago. Oh, thank you so much. How nice. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. 8 years goes by so quickly. It's my wife and son were here earlier, and he was 6 months old. Now he's 8.5. So it goes by quick. And I was joking with Commissioner Harris. I go, when I started, I had a lot less gray hair. So whoever replaces me, get ready for Just for Men or Just for Women, whoever gets it. But I wanted to thank just everyone just the people who presented the projects here. It's always been such a robust variance of projects and things that we get to see, and just the vibrancy of Newport Beach. It's been great, and want to thank my current commissioners who I serve with and all my past commissioners we've served with. It's just been a great team, and even in the times we've disagreed, there's never ever been any hurt feelings or anything like that. So it's always been such a great collegial working together, and it's been very nice. And just second to the last, when I first started, I was a little bit always skeptical, a little bit, I guess you could say, of bureaucracies. But I will say that we are very lucky here, because my business outside of this and other jurisdictions, I'm usually on the other side of the dais presenting, and I will say our planning staff and everyone I've worked with is just top notch. And we are so lucky in this town to have people, individuals like this that are here. Because I know outside of other jurisdictions, we are so lucky with the people that we have on staff here. So I just want to thank them for all the years of just being so thoughtful and have done such a wonderful job for us and helping us, and then greater for the city. So I just want to thank them, and my wife and some were here earlier, like I said, and want to thank them for letting me have my Thursday nights here twice a month to spend time with everyone and be able to serve the city. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Enjoy your Thursday evenings. All right, the last item is item number 8 with a request for excused absences. Commissioners?
July 3rd.
July 3rd? All right. And with that, we are adjourned.